Turning now to a new book due out tomorrow by CNN's Jake Tapper and Axios' Alex Thompson. The highly anticipated book titled Original Sin talks about the White House's efforts to conceal Biden's physical decline during the 2024 re-election campaign. The authors note that they spoke to about 200 sources for the book, and many of them did not think Biden could serve a second term. So, what new insight does this book shed, especially in the light of the former president's new cancer diagnosis? For more on that, let's bring in Israel Balderas, assistant professor of journalism at Elon University. Israel, we appreciate you joining us this Monday morning. We are seeing pointed questions already starting to be asked, a narrative emerging about how long did the former president know about this diagnosis? What do you believe his cancer revelation means for the book that comes out tomorrow that talks about his mental decline? And do you believe this cancer diagnosis sort of heightens the conspiracy and the idea of a cover-up?
Well, I'm thinking along the same lines as CNN media critic Brian Stelter, who said this revelation is just extraordinary because of the timing. Think about what's happened over the last week. Certainly, we've been now finding out that there was essentially a Biden cover-up that we've known for a long time, the public, as well as the journalists and the staffers at the White House, that Biden's mental capacity was declining. And now we have this new revelation that a type of cancer is now hurting the former president. However, we've got now medical experts who are saying, wait a minute, this type of aggressive cancer didn't just happen overnight, right? It's happened over a few years. So now we've got these questions that are being asked that should be asked by journalists seeking the truth. And that is, how far did the White House go over the last 4 years to keep President Joe Biden in the public eye, to make him look like he was in charge of the White House? But certainly now we have many more questions to ask about how healthy was he this past 4 years.
That's a great question, because I asked that to a Democratic strategist about 30 minutes ago, and he couldn't answer that. He said there was no cover-up. So my question to you, Israel, and you teach your journalism students, find out the truth. Ask any question you want. No question is silly or dumb. So I'm asking you this question: if it's conceivable that, according to Jake Tapper, the author of this book, that he says we didn't lie to the public, the White House lied to us. They covered it up. So I'm asking you, back in July of 2022, during a speech about coal mining, President Biden said, "I have cancer." So do we believe that there could have been some sort of conspiracy theory by the White House to cover that up as well?
Well, and remember back then in 2022, the White House said that was just a gaffe, right? So now we're looking at this evidence, and this evidence is going to force journalists to ask tough questions. And let me go one step further, right? Because Jake Tapper has been in the news talking about his book, but I've been very public on social media. I've even called for CNN to fire Jake Tapper. Why? Because he and other journalists in the national press told us something else that we could see in the public eye. And it's not that they covered up, but it's the fact that now they're trying to turn the narrative that they were duped. Well, I'm sorry. You cannot be duped if you are pursuing the truth as a journalist. And one more thing that I would add to this, Joe, and that is we have now new revelations about mental capacity of the former president. But as we start asking questions about now his prostate cancer diagnosis, what's going to happen when we ask the following questions? Why isn't this bit of information in the book? If people were talking, if journalists were asking tough questions after the election, how is it that this particular health aspect didn't come up? And those are going to be tough questions, not just for former staffers and Democratic strategists to answer, but certainly journalists, because a truth of this magnitude can't be hidden for that long without somebody knowing the truth.
Israel, 30 seconds or less, because the timing here is extraordinary. The Biden family, in a statement, says they learned of this diagnosis on Friday. The same day, we saw the release of the audio obtained by Axios of his conversations with Robert Hur back in 2023, talking about memory lapses when he interviewed the president. Suspect here that it was that they just now talked about it, that these came out on a Friday, then announced it on Sunday to sort of sweep that other stuff under the rug. So we're not talking about that.
Listen, I'm a former journalist. I'm a First Amendment attorney. I am skeptical by nature. However, the timing is suspect. And the fact that you have medical experts now coming out and saying, wait a minute, this type of cancer can't just happen overnight. if journalists do their jobs and they ask the tough questions, I think we're going to find out more that was covered up than just Biden's mental capacity.
I think if they're being taught there at Elon from you, I think we're in good shape. Israel Balderas, thank you for joining us here on this Monday.